Okay, and welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, and wanted to thank you for listening in today. It's been a while. It took a couple weeks off to enjoy the last few weeks of summer with the family. So I appreciate your patience, and our goal is always to get a brand new episode out with a really special guest every week. So wanted to thank you. Hope everyone had a great summer. Looking forward to catching up with all of you. So today we have a very special guest. Actually, I heard a podcast interview probably about a couple weeks ago with a good friend of mine, Steve Gordon, on the Unstoppable CEO podcast. A little plug on another podcast. And we are speaking today with Jeff Badu, and he is a CPA, a person that is just, overall can help with your accounting, tax planning. And I thought it would be a great guest to kind of kick off September. Kids are back to school. Business is kind of, I look at it as kind of getting our second win and finishing off strong. And question I've been getting quite a bit, including all of our guests and anyone I've actually helped out, is who do you recommend as far as an accountant, or when do I hire an accountant or a CPA? And wanted to have Jeff on the show to kind of give us, a little bit about, what he does and how he's able to help entrepreneurs. So Jeff, welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you, Giuseppe. How you doing?
Very good. Very good. So a little bit longer of an intro. I'm refreshed today. Summer went by really quick. So with the craziness, I said, let's grab the last 2 weeks off. So I appreciate you coming on the show. And I always like to kind of kick it off with, if you could tell the audience a little bit about, who you are, how did you get into the accounting business, and just what does that journey look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll basically just start off with an overview, right? A general introduction of who I am, and then I can get it a little into the story of how I got there. So my name is Jeff Badu. I'm a licensed certified public accountant, or CPA. I do have a formal education. I did go to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, got a bachelor's and a master's degree in accounting. And then I also went on to get my CPA license. And basically, I'm a parallel entrepreneur and a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. And what we do is we provide a suite of financial services, including our marquee company, which is Badu Tax Services. And that's the firm that does tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses across all 50 states in the US. And we also have clients that reside in over 25 countries at the moment. Then we have my real estate investment company, which is Badu Investments, LLC. And that's where we invest in apartment buildings, rental properties, mainly on the south side of Chicago, in efforts to restore traditionally underserved communities. So what we do is we acquire rental properties in, basically those neighborhoods in exchange for cash flow, and right now we control 125 units on the south side. Then we have Badu Life and Health Solutions, LLC, which my wife, Yvonne, is actually the CEO, co-founder and CEO of that company. And what we do is we provide life insurance products and solutions to individuals and businesses, as well as families, to protect their families and also accelerate their wealth in ways that they never knew were possible. Then, out of the 12 companies, the fourth main one is Badu Foundation. And I would say nothing that I do in this world means anything more to me than that company right there. And that we provide financial literacy education to the youth ages 6 to 18, where we teach them on budgeting, saving, investing, and scholarships. And at the end of the program, if they successfully complete it each year, they get a $500 scholarship, essentially. Basically for me, my overall purpose in life is really simple. It's to inspire and support the super hungry to take hold of infinite resources in order to create an abundant lifestyle. Now, you're probably wondering, how in the world did I get there? So I'll give you just a quick recap, quick story on that.
Yeah.
In that I was born and raised in Ghana, which is on the west side of Africa. And growing up, things were pretty good. I did get exposed to entrepreneurship early because the Ghanaian culture is very, very entrepreneurial in that, when you go outside on the streets, you'll see someone who's selling, whether it be clothes, shoes, candies, apples, oranges, and that's everywhere. I mean, everywhere you go, you'll see somebody selling something. So for me, I got exposed to entrepreneurship, and at the age of 5, someone handed me a candy bar, and I said, "Thank you for giving me the candy bar." Instead of eating it, I went and sold it out on the streets, basically. So that really got my entrepreneurship, the blood flowing in the veins a bit. And my parents are also entrepreneurs. My dad is a real estate developer in Ghana, and my mom is also into real estate in Ghana, and she owns a retail shop. So that allowed me to get exposed to entrepreneurship early. So I knew for a fact that I couldn't be working for anybody for a very long time, because I already knew what it felt like to be an entrepreneur myself and also others around me. So with that, I came to the US when I was 8 years old. And that's the big point in my life where things went downhill. Mm-hmm. I was, put into a neighborhood called Uptown, which is a neighborhood in Chicago. And for those who don't know, Uptown in Chicago, it wasn't the best neighborhood to put a child, right? Especially at that age. It was a very, very rough time. Violence, shootings, and all types of crazy stuff going on. And unfortunately for me, I surrounded myself with friends that were involved with some of these things, right? So, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And so that was a very, very tough point. I had no guidance in life. Yes, I had both parents that were doing pretty good. They were guiding me and coaching me. But when you're out with your friends, it's a lot different, especially when you hang around them more than you hang around your own family. So it was very, very tough. I basically had to pull myself out of it. And at the age of 16, that's when I discovered my purpose in life, which is to inspire and support the super hungry to take hold of infinite resources in order to create an abundant lifestyle. Well, the thing is, when I went back to Ghana at the age of 16, I finally understood the struggle, because I had seen the struggle, this whole time, but I never really understood it. Where you see a lady, for example, who's carrying not one but 2 babies wrapped around her back with a huge load of apples, oranges, whatever it takes to make ends meet, right? And to see that, I'm like, wow, you know what? I may be meant to help people like her, people who are internally like super hungry, internally motivated to do something, and they have that drive, to go out and feed their families. Well, what if you equip them, or you basically allow them to take hold of infinite resources to now create an abundant as opposed to a scarcity lifestyle.
Right.
And so after that, everything changed. I surrounded myself with new friends. I got closer to my faith, got closer to God. I went to church every single Sunday. I was a youth leader in my church. I read half the Bible when I was 16, and things got a lot better. Things were moving really, really well. And for me, that was a big point in my life where now I discovered, my greater purpose, my greater good in life. And that led me to go into the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, where I was the first person in my high school to get accepted. I went to Uplift Community High School in Chicago. I was the very, very first person in the history of the high school to get accepted to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, or the UBI for short. Yeah, and then, basically, I started building my business plan. I started doing research about an hour a day on my business. And that led to me graduating in 2014 with my bachelor's degree, 2015 with the master's degree. And then I was working full time for PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC, one of the big 4 public accounting firms in the world. So I had always been interning there ever since I got into college. Also was building my business plan, doing taxes for people for free, going out on YouTube, doing whatever I could to really, really get a hold of the industry. And then in 2016, September 2nd, 2016, happy belated Labor Day, by the way. 5 years ago, Labor Day was when I quit my full-time job. I was literally on my way to work, on the way to a barbecue. And in the middle of the drive, they called me in for work. I'm like, this is not the way to be living, right? Mm-hmm. The day you're not supposed to work, they call you into work. So I got fed up, and for other reasons, I decided to turn in my 2-week notice and become a full-time entrepreneur. And that's what led to Badu Tax Services, LLC, which is now a CPA firm that has over 2,000 clients across all 50 states in the U.S. and in also over 25 countries, right? And it took a lot to build that business, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but that's ultimately the journey into what led to the Badu Tax Services and overall the Badu Enterprises brand.
Wow, that is very impressive, given the amount of time you've crammed all that in. So
Mhm.
I applaud you for that. That is a phenomenal story, and I don't even know where to start. You covered so much. I mean, it's making that decision. And by the way, that 5 years, I actually saw your post yesterday.
Mhm.
Wishing happy Labor Day, and as far as quitting your job 5 years ago. So that was something I actually personally learned about you yesterday. And it's always people always have that story, that why, that reason. We're like, enough was enough. It was kind of, you had that strong why, but that was kind of the icing on the cake. And I've been there. I've worked in the investment world for many years, and just the hours were intense, and I just felt like we weren't going anywhere. Felt like I was on the hamster wheel. So looking forward to what you accomplish in the next 5 years. So it's going to be pretty amazing, especially with the list of companies that you've already managed with your wife to form. So you covered a lot. I'm thinking where we start. So I guess taking a step back. So
Mhm.
I read some books over the summer. The name Marcus Sheridan
Mm.
was the name of the author, talking about I forget the name of the title of the book, but it was basically listening to your customers, or the common questions you're getting. So base your marketing off of that. So kind of playing off that specific book, and I'll get the exact title or the correct title in the show notes. But the question I get is, I work with a lot of people that are thinking about owning their first business, and a lot of the questions are, when do I hire, or when do I start talking at least to certain people, like an attorney, or in your case an accountant or CPA. So the question I get are actually two things. So one is there a difference between an accountant and a CPA? Just for the audience, I get that question. And number two is, when do I actually start speaking with an accountant or CPA in my journey of owning my first business?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get asked that all the time too. But so here's the thing: there's no real difference between a CPA and an accountant. So the only true thing that a CPA can do that someone who's not a CPA, who's an accountant, can do really is they can do audits. So they can audit financial statements of companies. And when I was at PwC, I actually was an auditor. I was auditing private companies, closely held companies, and I learned a lot from that experience overall. So a CPA maybe more education, more experience, right? But to be honest, in a tax world, as long as that accountant is properly trained, it's not about titles anymore. It's about, what can this person do to help me get my business moving, to help me move in the right direction. So yeah, there's this whole stigma in the accounting world that, hey, CPAs are better than others and all that. But I would say, yeah, the CPA license for me was what fueled me to be able to gain more confidence. When you have those letters next to your name, especially being someone who's young as I was back when I started,
Right.
nobody really believes you until they see credentials. And I hate that that's the world that we live in now. But for me, it definitely did help me along the journey. So now, knowing that, there's no real true difference between a CPA and an accountant, because we all can basically do the same thing. Maybe a CPA can do a few things more than a regular accountant. But from a tax standpoint, an accountant who's gone through the proper training and education can save you just as much as any CPA. So that's the first answer to the question. And when should you hire an accountant or CPA is as soon as possible. As a matter of fact, before you even start your business is the best time to do it, because how are you going to know how to set it up? LLC, S corp, partnership. There's so many questions. People are like, hey, do I file quarterly? Right? Do I do this? Do I do that? And there's so many questions. And had you had even just a 1-hour consultation with an accountant, or even if they charge you $500 for it, that $500 is money well spent, because that's going to allow you to go on the right path early. So usually when people reach out to me, unfortunately, it's when it's a bit too late,
Right.
and they're deep into the business already. So the best time to hire someone is before, and if you haven't already done that, it's as soon as possible.
Okay, so we're on the same page for everyone listening in, because I get these questions all the time, and now I can say, here's an accountant, here's a CPA. This is, the difference. Really not much of a difference, as we discussed, and went to hire someone. And a lot of those people will wait, to your point. All right, I bought the franchise. Let's, kind of one of the steps. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert here, is that when making that decision, whether it doesn't have to be a franchise, any business,
Mm-hmm.
You're putting together a pro forma, and taxes are an expense, right? Taxes are, am I an LLC or an S corp? How am I getting taxed? And I think people do not put that in or calculate that, right? What they're, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your gross revenues are. It's what are you taking home after taxes. So I don't believe people account for that, and that makes, from my experience, a huge difference. Am I so okay? So I am correct by saying that. So
yeah, I mean, the average person in America pays 40% to Uncle Sam.
Right.
So when you're not factoring that into your calculations, I mean, that's a big, massive difference.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. You should be factoring that in. And what we do, especially at Badu Tax Services, is we help people basically see a better way. We help people minimize their tax liability through legal strategies, right? And this is where our core service, tax planning, which is completely different from tax preparation. There's a difference between someone who just prepares your tax return versus someone who helps you proactively plan out the whole year when it comes to taxes. Big difference. Mm-hmm. And for us, that's what makes us unique. And we also tend to educate a lot. We do at least 2 webinars a week. I have my radio show I do every Monday night. So it's really important to make sure that you're using the right strategies. Mm-hmm. But you're right, you do want to factor these things in when you're going through budgets. You don't want to forget about Uncle Sam, unfortunately, the uncle that we never knew truly existed.
Exactly. Yeah, and he takes his cut. So yeah, that's a very good point, because I've been in business for a while now. It's and talking to various accounts, I feel like it's kind of wait till the end of the year and we'll do tax planning. And I go, tax planning, in my opinion, should always be obviously a plan ahead of time, and it should be 12 months a year, because things change, situations, maybe the spouse, is no longer working, or they start their own business. So things are constantly changing. And I'll never forget, there was an interview, we talked about it very briefly before the show, with Mark Cuban, and he said his goal with hiring his accounting team is to legally pay the least amount of taxes, so that he has the ability to do what he wants with that money, whether it be donate to charities or do various things with it. And I think it's really the end goal, right? It's setting up that correct legal entity, so you have that legal protection, but also paying, in my opinion, the least amount of taxes, obviously legally. And he had stressed that multiple times in the interview. But I think that's it, right? I mean, I think so. That's something I've experienced, and other people have mentioned to me, that their accountant is basically just, okay, give me the numbers, and then we'll let you know what you owe at the end of the year. So is that at fault of the accountant, or is that just services maybe the accountant doesn't offer? So maybe, is it one of those things where maybe people are saying my accountant doesn't do this, but maybe you're not supposed to hire the accountant. Maybe most companies don't offer that, if that makes sense. That question makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to use the doctor analogy. I think that's the best way to explain it. When you go to a doctor for just a flu shot, right, that's all they're going to give you is a flu shot, because that's all you came in for. However, the right doctor is going to say, well, wait a second, do you even need the flu shot? Mm-hmm. Do you actually, what symptoms are you having? Why are you getting the flu shot? Hey, can we do a full physical exam, maybe to examine every part of your body to see if there's other things we can do? So it's a two-way street, basically, in that the accountant is at fault because the accountant is not trained enough to ask the right questions. When you come into the office, they just say, oh yeah, we'll just do the taxes and that's it. Mm-hmm. For us, every single person that walks in the door has at least a 15-minute discovery call to see what they actually need. Do they even need, they probably need tax prep, right? Everybody needs it. But is there more?
Right.
Do they need bookkeeping? How do we even know their books are in order when we take the client if we're not asking them that question?
Right.
Do they need tax planning? right? So how do we know what strategies they're using? If we see a Schedule C with over $100,000 in net profit, that's a big red flag that they probably weren't doing some tax planning. So basically, when you go into a doctor's office, it would be ideal for that doctor to be asking you questions to basically analyze your entire body, not just the flu shot. And then it's also on the customer themselves in that, if first of all, why are you not doing an annual physical? Hopefully you are, but if you're not, like, why isn't that not the case? Why is it just once a year you're going to the doctor just to get a flu shot? I mean, what if there's other things wrong with your body?
Right.
So I tend to put it more on the accountant, because the accountant is the professional, right? Professional should be trained enough to know when to ask the right question to the right customer. As a matter of fact, I think it's malpractice to take someone in your door and not ask them those types of questions. I think it's a big malpractice, because you're disservicing the client. So I understand, your frustrations, clients' frustrations when it comes to that. And that's why everybody, like, we get a Yelp inquiry like, hey, I just want to do taxes. We'll say, hey, let's have a conversation first. No, I just want to do taxes. I'm like, well, we can't help you if that's all you want to do. There are some cases where, hey, yeah, we'll just do the taxes, right? But at least let's have a follow-up conversation to see if there's anything we can help you. So for us, we get it before, during, and after the service is completed, to see if there's more stuff that we can do for the client. And that's what separates us from over 90% of other accounting firms.
Yeah, and that's a big, when it comes to accounting, it's not an expense. I call it more of an investment. And I used to do my taxes myself with my wife, and was it much cheaper? Absolutely. If you look at dollar for dollar what I paid versus paying an accountant, but then we found out all the mistakes and things that we weren't doing over the years and how much it actually costs us. So that was extremely, and this is when I was working for corporate America. So two W-2 employees. Now I'm obviously owning a business. I said, this is just way over my head, and things are constantly changing, right? I mean, to your point, the accountant is the expert, just like as you mentioned, the doctor. If I go in saying, well, just give me a shot of this for pain. Well, what the heck happened? That you need this shot, they're not just going to prescribe you, a prescription. Let's find out exactly what happened. Let's talk about what's going on in the pain you're feeling. So the accountant is the expert, and they need to know the whole story in order to make any decision. It's not an upsell or anything. It's, let me figure out what's best for you. Right. It's not a one size kind of fits all. And I mean, it's literally, especially with the change in administration, changes in tax code and taxes, there's a lot of changes. Right. So whether you like it or not, you need to be up to date. And I think that's a full-time job. Just trying to, I'm reading about it, and I'm sending, I know I send articles to my accountant. She's like, yes, we took that into consideration, but there is a lot out there. So same thing with financial planning. I no longer manage my investments on my own because I don't have the bandwidth or the time to spend on that. So I think it's crucial to find someone and take advantage. You said you had a 15-minute discovery call. Find someone that you trust and you get along with. You're probably going to be talking a lot with that person, and especially in the first year. So I do the same, for people that I work with. I said, you have to put up with me. So let's make sure we're a good fit after the first call. I like to joke around and be very conversational. So you covered quite a bit and answered a lot of questions. So for anyone listening in, we covered as to the role of the accountant, the differences in the accountant and CPA, legal entities and things like that. I know I've had, in my first business, had my accountant. Actually, it's my last two businesses. The accountant actually set up the legal entity, and I was not aware of that. Do you do that as well? Do you set up the legal entity? When does an attorney have to get involved in that process?
Yeah, great question. Usually if it's a franchise, you probably want to get an attorney involved in that entire process in general, because it can get quite complex. But if it's a standard business, then yes, we do help form entities. We own a company called Badu Entity Formation LLC, where we help form LLCs, INCs. However, we would not do such a thing without first analyzing the business, the projections, because hey, maybe the LLC taxed as a sole proprietor is not the best thing. Maybe it should be an LLC tax as an S corp, where you can save on self-employment taxes, the 15.3% FICA tax. So basically we do have that, and we usually package it all up where we can do the tax planning, the entity formation, bookkeeping, right? And then we might also do some tax preparation. And then other things, we do own the life insurance agency. We do own a real estate investment company. So the nice thing about what we have going on is we don't just do taxes. We're not just accountants that just do taxes. We do a lot of other things, but we will start somewhere. And then as you progress along the journey, then we may give you other, prescriptions, basically.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. One step at a time, as I always say, right? Get the ball rolling, and you'll be surprised. Just speaking with even an attorney to find out, do you have this set up? Do you have your will? What about your estate planning? And it's like, we don't know. You don't know what you don't know, especially being a first-time business owner. So you don't even know the questions to be asking. Oh, I heard my cousin set up an LLC. Let me just go to, set up an LLC online. It's like, well, hold on a second. What's your structure? What are you buying? How many partners? And it's, I think a part of that too is the internet. There's so much information. It seems to, one article contradicts with the other. So I always say, speak with someone that is knowledgeable, has the experience, and just stay offline. Sometimes I think you almost do yourself a disservice reading all this information online. So I appreciate all that. What else should, a big percentage of the audience are the first-time business owners, again, franchise or non-franchise, they're first-time business owners trying to figure out what is the best vehicle to get me to where I want to be, right? So there's various vehicles. Maybe it's a franchise. Maybe it's just you're investing in real estate. There's no right or wrong or better, in my opinion. It's what truly fits, what you are looking for. So what advice, what else should people be thinking about or considering when, looking at or starting their first business?
Yeah, so you did bring up a good point in the whole online aspect of things. So you do have to be careful where you get your research from. Mm-hmm. And for me, the main reason why I started Badu Tax Services was to educate people, especially when it comes to taxes. I knew for a fact that people lacked education in this area. I mean, big time, big time, right? And you're talking not just W-2 employees, but business owners. So what I did in the 5+ years, I've been doing taxes for people since 2010, right? But I didn't launch the business until 2016. So in that time span, I've accumulated all this research, all this data, over 1,000 hours of education onto a website called jeffbadu.com.
Oh, wow.
That's JEFFBADU.com. And basically, it has a lot of free resources on there. Like, hey, how do you even start a business, right? Hey, if you do start a business, what type of legal entity should you at least consider? So that's the more do-it-yourself model. We also have a course. It's called the Infinite Wealth course that teaches someone how to live a tax-free lifestyle and, just sit down for 3 hours, get all that education. And then, if you need the hands-on, which you probably will, right? So we got the do-it-yourself course, and then we also have our services, the Badu Tax Services. Mm-hmm. So what I would encourage people to do is, first of all, get the right information from the right resource. And I would say if you go to jeffbadu.com right now, you're going to get a ton articles, right? Videos, audio. So if literally, I'm like, hey, if you want it written format, if you want it in video format, if you want it in audio format, you can get it in all three. And I put some of those into books as well. I've written 3 books that are on the website, and then recently put it into a course because people are like, hey, I need more. They're always asking for more. I'm like, well, here's more. So that's where the whole notion of infinite resources comes from. So you have to make sure you're looking at the right resource. And I would say jeffbadu.com is a right resource for anybody who's looking to get started, or even someone who's more established in business.
That's great that you give the options, and maybe someone wants to start out, taking the course and then hire you full time. And I will say, in the short conversation we have, definitely knowledgeable, definitely know, your craft, your business. And I would highly recommend anyone, get informed, whether it's wherever you are in the process, get informed, have a general understanding. You're not going to be an expert. Tax code, things are going to obviously change, but to hire a professional to really assist you, stay up to date. Sometimes the smallest of things, or you forget. I know that I was 15 plus years ago when I first started. The gentleman, another gentleman I knew, started this around the same time. Did not realize he had to pay tax estimates. And at the end of the year, after spending all of what he made, said, "Or wait a second, yeah, I actually, wait a second, I didn't pay myself as a W-2. I paid myself this way, and I paid nothing in taxes, and had to take a loan out to pay those taxes. Was not paying sales tax on time, so had to take a massive loan to pay all this back." And he realized his mistake and decided, you know what, I need to hire someone full time. And it was that mind shift. It wasn't the expense. It wasn't the 500,000, 2,000, whatever the heck it was. It was more of an investment. And in my world, peace of mind. I have so many other things I'm working on. It's nice to know that someone is monitoring this for me, staying on top and being proactive, which I think is, where we see a lacking of service, where saying, hey, with this change in the code, if you're making over 400,000, it's gonna, your taxes may go up. We may want to change the legal entity in order to avoid that, whatever it is, or to minimize it. Obviously, doing things the right way, but not being up to speed or having the time to even invest reading all about that. So I think that's huge. I think hiring those professionals, a great attorney, someone like yourself, great financial advisor, someone to see, and you offer a lot of those services. So I think that's whoever you decide to go with, that's my big recommendation. It saved me a lot of sleepless nights and hopefully lots of money, over the years. So best place for a person that's listening in that wants to learn more, Jeff Badu, JEFFBADU.com is the best starting point.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. And it's not only do you get the resources, but you can also contact me on the website.
Perfect.
There's a contact me section at the bottom of the website. You can also reach our office, 773-819-5675. Once again, 773-819-5675. We do offer free 15-minute consultations just to at least get you in the door, get you started. If you have questions, JeffBadu.com is the best place to not only get the resources, but also contact me. And then you can email me too. It's jb@badutaxservices.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely get all that in the show notes. And just for clarity, someone that is interested in setting up that call, that doesn't have to be a business owner, potential business owner. It could just be, a family, W-2 employees, correct? So any questions on the tax side?
Yeah, we help. Most of our clients are business owners, specifically folks into real estate, but we have other business owners that we work with. We have W-2 employees. Yeah, so anyone in general who's looking for this information, who truly sees value in what we do, is someone who we're willing and able to help for sure.
Awesome. Well, listen, Jeff, I really appreciate it. You beat me to it, so giving your information, so everyone has that information to check out. Great resource. I'm actually looking forward to checking it out personally myself. We'll get all that in the show notes, and I will be sending out this episode to all those people asking about accounting. So I'm sure you'll be getting some future calls here from first-time franchise owners. So looking forward to sending out the show once it's edited and hopefully out later this week. So again, Jeff, I really appreciate your time. It's great meeting you, and looking forward to speaking again.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Seth.
Thanks again.